A train jumps off the rails near Seattle, killing 3 people, injuring 100 more. We'll hear the first calls for help right after the crash.
You don't have to acquire right away. You don't have to compete on the streets. You're up in the sky, so you're kind of have a free environment to deal with.
Reaching for new heights, the inspiration for public transportation found at the San Diego Zoo and what it will take to fund it.
When you're public skating, if you skate through puddles, you know, I hear people say the ice is slippery. I mean, it's the most ridiculous comment I've ever heard in my life.
Sliding through a winter wonderland, the key to keeping this outdoor rink frozen in San Diego. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. The National Transportation Safety Board is working into the night to find out what caused a commuter train to jump its tracks this morning in Washington state. First responders say 3 people were killed when the Amtrak train derailed and spilled from an overpass onto Interstate 5. The train was traveling between Tacoma and Portland and was near Olympia when it crashed around 7:45 this morning. More than 100 people were taken to hospitals. Here is some of the initial radio call made after the crash.
We were coming around the corner to take the bridge over I-5 there, right north into Squally, and we went on the ground.
Okay, is everybody okay?
I'm still figuring that out. We got cars everywhere and down onto the highway.
The section of the track had just been upgraded. It was part of a $181 million project for a new, faster route. Today was the first day of operation. The train accident in Washington and power outage that shut down Atlanta's airport over the weekend comes at the start of a busy holiday travel period. AAA's forecast is a record breaker. The agency says more than 107 million Americans plan to travel. That's the highest number yet and a 3% increase from 2016. The vast majority, more than 97 million people, will travel via car. Gondolas, those cable cars that carry you through the air, are used at ski resorts, but they're not typically part of a city's transit system. Some supporters in San Diego think they should be. KPBS editor Tom Fudge spoke with the city's most powerful backer of gondolas about why this idea is still waiting for a lift.
Think about public transportation in San Diego and you think about buses and trolleys. Because that's what we've got.
But there is a public transit platform that supporters say has a lot of promise. In fact, we already use it for tourists and recreators at the zoo. It's called a gondola.
The first inspiration I ever had was the zoo. I was looking at the zoo ride, and I was thinking, you know what? If we just kept going across the freeway to 6th Avenue and went downtown.
County Supervisor Ron Roberts soon saw the gondola as a practical way to transport people over San Diego's crowded and hilly landscape. And the San Diego Zoo was the spark.
And then that set the wildfire in my mind that we got to do this.
Gondolas ride on an aerial cable slung along a series of towers. When a gondola car reaches a station, it temporarily disengages from the cable so riders can get off and on. Roberts, who has been on the board of San Diego's transit system for decades, says the argument for gondolas, which he prefers to call skyways, comes down to cost and environmental impact.
Number one, the cost of the system compared to the trolley it's a fraction of the trolley.
A feasibility report on a 2-mile gondola line proposed between downtown and Balboa Park put the cost of it at $65 million. Yes, that is a lot less than a trolley. Advantage number 2, a gondola's light touch on the urban environment.
You don't have to acquire right away. You don't have to compete on the streets. You're up in the sky, so you're kind of have a free environment to deal with.
With a gondola, the only terrestrial footprint are the towers you build to hold the suspension cable or to support an aerial station.
You know, wherever you've got grade and you got freeways and you got other things that you have to cross or you got a lot of traffic, it's a good way. Fly over it.
In San Diego, planners say gondolas would make short connections linking places on a trolley line to places that are only 1 or 2 miles away. Downtown to Balboa Park and Mission Valley to Hillcrest have been suggested. Up in Oregon, a gondola-like tramway connects the 2 Portland campuses of Oregon Health Sciences University. The university was developing a new campus about a dozen years ago, and they needed to connect it to the main campus about a mile away and 500 feet up a hill.
So we looked at, funiculars and gondolas and tramways. They looked at different train options up the hillside.
Today, the Portland Aerial Tramway carries 10,000 passengers a day, and the system costs $2 million a year to operate. Dodson says it's a good price.
When you can move 10,000 riders over a day and not have any vehicles to do that, it's a huge benefit.
So why have gondolas not taken off as public transit in San Diego? Supporters bemoan the fact that nobody takes them seriously. They're ski lifts, they're for tourists. Also, gondolas do cost money, and not everybody is convinced they're what San Diego commuters need.
Nicole Capritz, executive director of the Climate Action Plan in San Diego, is a strong advocate for public transit. She's not a fan of gondolas.
It's kind of a fancy, new, bright and shiny object, but at the same time, we need to be focusing on solutions that we already know work and that fit, are tailored to San Diego. We need to make those work before we explore kind of these theoretical, conceptual ideas.
The shortage of political support for gondolas was seen last year. That's when Roberts, also the chairman of the San Diego Association of Governments, removed funding for gondolas from Measure A, the ballot initiative to raise taxes to pay for transportation. He said, quote, "It was best to remove the Skyway funding to improve Measure A's chances." In the end, Roberts' move was irrelevant. Measure A still failed to get the 2/3 majority it needed to pass. Today, Roberts is still upbeat about finding funding for gondolas.
The federal government has grants for projects, smaller projects that are innovative. California right now has got this incredible effort going on. What do we do on greenhouse gas? They've got a pile of money.
That said, a gondola for San Diego may need a new political champion. Roberts will give up his chairmanship of Sandag at the end of this year, and he'll be termed out of his county supervisor seat at the end of 2018. Tom Fudge, KPBS News.
Weather forecasters are predicting just a 1 in 3 chance we'll get a normal amount of rain and snow this winter. The prediction is based on the amount of precipitation we've seen so far. The San Diego region has been dry for months. Despite the trend, forecasters say it's too early to predict another drought. Later on in the newscast, we'll have details on when we might see a chance of rain. A Del Mar City Councilman is facing backlash for comments he made calling climate change, quote, a debatable issue. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen has more.
Councilman Terry Sanat last week was elected board chairman of Sandag, the Regional Transportation Planning Agency. I asked him after his election whether he thought climate change was caused by humans. He didn't answer directly, saying it was a debatable issue on the board and his job was to mediate that discussion. Following those comments, members of Del Mar's Sustainability Advisory Board emailed the council criticizing Sanat. Former Del Mar City Councilman and UCSD physics professor Henry Abarbanel says climate science is indisputable, and Sanat should know that.
He has 2 jobs. One is to represent his constituents and his council, and the other is to lead the members of Sandag, whatever their present beliefs, to recognize the issues of climate change and to help educate them.
Sanat sent an email to his council colleagues over the weekend saying, quote, "As I see it, my role as chair is to foster discussion and the development of consensus, not to make statements that may alienate some members of the board and make consensus more difficult to achieve." Sanat also says he supports Del Mar's climate action plan. At a city council meeting this evening, he said he does believe climate change is caused by humans. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, as President Trump unveils his national security strategy, I speak to the White House National Security Advisor, H.R. McMaster. That's at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Now open for business in downtown San Diego, a new Superior Courthouse. This 22-story building cost nearly $600 million. The project took 2 years to build. Problems with the fire safety system delayed the opening by several months. Family and probate courtrooms open today. Other court functions will move in next month. The number of people enrolling in a covered California health plan this season remains ahead of last year's pace. KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg says as a result, the exchange has decided to give consumers a little more time to sign up.
So far this season, enrollment in covered California is up 17% compared to the same time last year. Last Friday was the deadline for people to sign up for coverage that would begin January 1st. But high demand has prompted the exchange to extend that deadline for another week. The entire open enrollment period in much of the country was cut short this year. In contrast, covered California's open enrollment runs until the end of January. Health insurance premiums have gone up. Even so, exchange officials say enrollees who get financial help are actually paying less than last year. That's because when premiums rise, so do federal tax credits. Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
Locally owned TV and radio station KFMB will soon be run by a broadcasting giant. The San Diego Union Tribune reports Virginia-based Tegna has reached a deal worth $325 million in cash. Tegna will acquire CBS 8 and CW San Diego along with the FM and AM radio stations. Tegna owns dozens of television stations across the country. One of the greatest barriers to education for students is reliable internet access. In an effort to bridge the digital divide, one of the poorest school districts in the country, located in Southern California, has found a way to provide 24/7 Wi-Fi. David Nazar has a story.
30 minutes west of the wealthy suburbs of Palm Springs is a desert oasis best known for its annual Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival. But behind the parties and concerts stretches a vast and isolated landscape, home to the second poorest school district in the country, where most families live below the poverty line and struggle just to pay the rent.
We have some of the poorest of the poor in our country, very economically challenged, and 100% of our students are on free and reduced lunch. Some of them are living in trailer home parks that, some have been condemned recently, or some in abandoned railroad cars. I mean, it's just unbelievable some of the challenges they face.
Coachella Valley Unified School District Superintendent Daryl Adams believes the right use of technology is critical for the families in this area, like Norma Olivas and her daughter Anissa Perez.
I do see students sometimes struggling, and right now sometimes you see some of the kids struggling to get to school, to do certain things, and I wouldn't want my daughter to go through any of that. I wouldn't want her to be a dropout.
When Adams took the job in 2011, the graduation rate was 70%, according to the district. One of his key initiatives was to get every student an iPad and Wi-Fi service, but he knew it would be a challenge.
We have 1,250 square miles to cover, larger than the state of Rhode Island. So when we found out there was spots in areas where students were not connected, we said, well, how can we get them connected? And so one of the ways is, well, look, we got 100 buses. Let's put Wi-Fi routers on those buses, and let's park them where the need is.
Finding the funding for this fleet of buses was no easy task. Nevertheless, in 2012, the community voted for and passed Measure X, a nearly $45 million school bond to fund the mobile learning initiative over 10 years. They called the program Wi-Fi on Wheels.
She gave me another day. In the bus, it's kind of cool that we have internet, because when the project is due the next day, we could actually spend time to do it.
Completing assignments was difficult for Anissa before getting her iPad and Wi-Fi service at home.
We'd have to travel actually to go to Indio, go to the library, get the books she needed to look up the information, and go home I don't make a lot of money, but I will do whatever it takes to make sure she does get a better education.
Adams is doing whatever he can to make sure that the 20,000 students in his schools, 98% Hispanic and about 10% undocumented, develop the skills they need to graduate.
So we realized that we had to provide this for our students in order for them to compete in the 21st century.
Installing solar panels on the rooftops of the school buses to power the state-of-the-art Wi-Fi routers was a solution proposed by Adams. The school district allows a few of these buses to be parked throughout the East Valley overnight. For students, it's a lifeline to the outside world. With Adams at the wheel, the graduation rate jumped from 70% to 80%. Now the superintendent has aspirations beyond students getting their homework done. He wants to connect everyone in the East Valley.
Because we found that we had a problem with some of the third-party internet service provider companies not willing to go into some of the areas where we serve. So in the long run, we would like to become our own Time Warner or our own Cox Communication and provide this for our students. It's too crucial for them to have this access for us not to go down this path.
That was reporter David Nazar from KOCE, the PBS station in Los Angeles. Over the weekend, the Thomas Fire grew to become the third largest in state history. The Thomas Fire is closing in on the 2003 Cedar Fire, which burned 373,000 acres. Fire crews in Santa Barbara and Ventura counties hope calmer conditions will give them an upper hand before stronger winds return. Jeff Cornish is tracking the fire conditions and has details on a chance of rain for San Diego.
We're keeping a close eye on the fire danger across Southern California, and the greatest concern in the region remains off to our northwest and north into places like Ventura and Santa Barbara counties where the Thomas Fire is still raging. But we have a little bit of good news, at least in the early part of the forecast, as the winds will shift onshore and they'll strengthen. And the weather watchers out there know that that's going to lead to a bump up in the humidity, and that higher humidity will reduce the wildfire danger for a brief time, Tuesday into Wednesday morning at least. We might even see a brief sprinkle somewhere nearby when the next front rolls through on Wednesday. Winds will then shift offshore once again into Thursday and Friday, and that'll increase the fire danger as the humidity levels drop once again. It's really a snoozer there when we look at the satellite and radar. Very little to see unless we pull things way out. You can see a little moisture up there into parts of Oregon, clouds west of the northwest, and also a little bit of rain left over somewhere near Tucson. A couple of flakes into the high elevations of the southern Rockies into New Mexico as well. But that's not going to impact us. We're clear tonight, at least mainly clear, 49 for your low. And across the region will be especially chilly into Mount Laguna, Campo 32, closer to 50 near the coast. Oceanside may drop to 40, though, off to our north. And it looks like a fairly quiet night. One sign of good news here, you can see the flow beginning to blow from the south as opposed to that offshore wind that begins to shift on Tuesday. Into Wednesday morning, it'll be more of a southwest wind that will lead to the increase in humidity. Tuesday's highs look pretty comfortable. A lot of sunshine, highs around 68 in San Diego, down to Chula Vista around 68 degrees, Mount Laguna 54, and Borrego Springs on track for 71 degrees. Looking at some of the 5-day forecasts here for the coast. We haven't seen many low clouds in the morning. That marine layer has been a stranger lately. That will return Wednesday morning with that onshore wind, but then the winds shift and the sun returns as humidity levels drop. Inland areas, we might get a little cooler into Wednesday with that onshore wind. A few low clouds will migrate inland as well for a brief time. The mountains drop behind the front. The wind picks up, goes offshore. It's a 42-degree high into Thursday. And into the deserts will be windy as well as the fire danger increases Thursday and Friday. I'm Jeff Cornish for KPBS News. Back to you, Ebony.
Another outdoor ice rink is open for the holidays in San Diego. The Frozen Fairgrounds at Del Mar now joins the Hotel Del Coronado and Liberty Station that operate their own rinks. But how do you keep water frozen when it's nearly 80 degrees outside? KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman went to Del Mar to find out.
A 400-ton chiller system. So that's basically, about 200 residential air conditioners.
Frozen Fairgrounds creator and San Diego resident Rich Cuban has been busy getting his rink ready for what he calls almost a desert climate.
The desert part of it's actually favorable because we have low humidity. So that'll make really good ice conditions. But when we do something on this level of this magnitude, I've been through way too many situations where Mother Nature wins.
Before they can determine ice quality, they actually have to freeze the water. Just outside the rink here, it's pretty loud because builders say there wasn't enough power to actually get the water frozen. So they had to bring in this huge diesel generator to get the job done.
They're called chiller units to maintain air conditioning. We convert that same unit for low temp operation for ice.
Right.
So they run at like 40 degrees for air conditioning. We run at 0.
There are 2 rinks at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, a smaller one for public skate, and this one, which Cuban says is the largest outdoor rink ever in San Diego. Even though the rinks are technically outside, the layout of the Del Mar Arena means ice won't be getting any direct sunlight.
If you just had an uncovered ice rink, you basically have 2 different environments. You have your daytime ice and you have your nighttime ice. Here, we'll have a warmer ambient temperature during the day, but the ice conditions will be the same during the day as they are at night.
In general, though, Cuban says outdoor rinks exposed to the elements are not always perfect.
When you're public skating, if you skate through puddles, you know, I hear people say the ice is slippery. I mean, it's the most ridiculous comment I've ever heard in my life. It is slippery, I hope.
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
The rink was scheduled to open Monday, but a glitch in the refrigeration system delayed the opening until Sunday. It's open through New Year's Eve. For more information, you can head to kpbs.org. If you're like most Americans, then you're likely spending hundreds of dollars this holiday season. In fact, San Diego State University marketing lecturer Mira Kopik says consumer spending will outpace wage increases, meaning some people will likely find their finances in the red come January. Recently, he and I spoke about shopping smart. They're really a best time to shop.
You know, for consumers, the best single time is the weekend before Black Friday through Cyber Monday. And then depending on how retailers are doing, it's the week, it's from December the 10th to just this year to the 22nd. Those will be the best times to shop because retailers will deepen discounts a little bit. Discounts this season have been fairly low by tradition. In the last few years, discounts have been 40 to 50%, in some cases more. This year they've averaged closer to 30%, 35%.
Do people actually save when they take advantage of these Black Fridays and Cyber Mondays and shop during these supposed deals?
Generally, yes. Retailers will work with their manufacturing partners, for example, right after the holiday season to really develop products that are going to be of great value. So they work with them in terms of volume to get a price point that's going to be special, $99, $59, $129, and it is really a big discount versus what consumers normally buy. Let's say you have a TV, you can go to a Target and it's $99. That's been negotiated a year in advance. They buy quantities a year in advance to get the price of that magic price point. That is a very special deal for consumers.
How much are shoppers expected to spend this year?
Shoppers are expected to spend about $950 a person, which is up about 3 to 4% versus last year. And about $650, $700 is going to be for gifts, and the rest is going to be food, decorations, cards, all that kind of stuff.
And how can people afford to spend this much without going into debt?
Some people do go into debt. Some people save throughout the year. In fact, about 35% of consumers have bought their Christmas gifts or a large number of their holiday gifts before October. So people are active shoppers all year long. They look at key sales, the January white sales, the 4th of July sales, and they're always looking with the eye to giving during the holiday season. So shoppers have gotten savvy. They're looking for discounts. They're looking for the things that are going to be special for somebody else, but they're not kind of tied just to this holiday shopping window.
What's your #1 tip to making sure you shop smart this holiday season?
The 2 important things of shopping smart is if you have favorite retailers, develop your wish list for both, if you're buying for somebody or for yourself. So those items that are important to you, you know, and you get notified when they're on deal. And then secondly, when you're about to go out, use your research online or on your mobile device to see where you get the best prices.
Christmas is a week away, but if you want your gifts to arrive on time, you'll need to send them out soon. The post office at Carmel Mountain was busy today with people sending out cards and gifts ahead of tomorrow's deadline. The U.S. Postal Service says it expects to deliver nearly 3 billion pieces of mail nationwide.
It really depends on where you're mailing it to. If you're mailing it in San Diego County to San Diego County, it will get there by Christmas. If you're mailing it across the country, it may not get there by Christmas.
Some local post offices will increase staff and extend hours this week. Those who don't mail by tomorrow will have to pay extra with priority and express mail. After a month-long search, San Diego has hired a new civic organist. Raul Prieto Ramirez is set to take the seat at the more than 100-year-old Speckles organ in Balboa Park. San Diego is just one of 2 cities with a civic organist. The other is Portland, Maine, and San Diego's job has been open since last summer. Prieto Ramirez currently lives in Spain. His last position was artistic director and founder of the Barcelona Summer Organ Festival and Academy. His first concert will be January 7th. Now here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, the joy of giving and tearing into all those holiday gifts. We'll show you ways to cut down on holiday waste. And on Midday Edition, a bird, a plane, or a UFO. The secret Pentagon program that recorded strange sights over San Diego. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.